Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 108. I am your host Dan, once again, and as always, joined by my bestest bud Anthony. Say hi, Anthony.
Hello.
And part of the two hosts of the only gaming news show on the internet that is not afraid to offend anybody, ruffle feathers, make the hottest it takes, all that good shit.
Yeah,
So, as usual, we will start off with what we've been playing, and then go from there. And as I understand it, Anthony, we have a writing question this week.
we do indeed.
Excellent, love those. So I'm gonna go first because my list is pretty freaking short. Um, I have really not been straying outside my norm. Space Marine. I did a little bit of Dark Tide because I'm kind of want to get back into the swing of things before the Skitarii class comes out in June. Battlefield, Helldivers, and I started playing Doom: The Dark Ages again today. Not for very long, but just uh, I had an itch and I wanted to scratch it. So it's pretty much it. I'm really waiting on like something else to come out to stray off my beaten path. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week.
All right.
Not very long at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's been about the same too. Obviously, we've been playing a lot of Helldivers. I've been playing a lot of Rivals. Um, the major things that I would say are different is we did get a new character in Street Fighter 6, so I tried her out with Harrison. I'll have more to say on this character later, but the long and short of it is that she's a lot of fun. The way that she was designed, as far as the different attacks she does and the different attributes and how she works with the universal system, leads me to believe we've entered the stage in Street Fighter's life where we're about at the midpoint where they either are getting ready to make changes to the game itself or are gearing up or testing new things for potential additions down the line, because the way she works and the way that a couple other characters this season worked is like a lot of the gripes that people had with the game, where it's like, oh, drive rush, which is the movement ability where it freezes the screen briefly and then you run forward and it puts you at advantage for a lot of things. A
Hmm.
lot of the characters introduced this season have very, I guess you could say, weakened or gimped ones. And for one of them, I was just like, oh, it makes sense for this character. He's a grappler. He doesn't necessarily need a good one. But now, like, this all-rounder character has, like, a very gimmicky one where she, like, hops instead of, like, running across the screen. And it just
Hmm.
seems like it seems like they're getting ready to make changes or are playing around with different tweaks to the system via character implementation, which isn't unheard of in games. But overall, she was a lot of fun. I do think she's probably going to get nerfed because her damage scaling is a little wacky, but we'll see what happens. It is still very early. Other than that, I know last week I mentioned to you, I'm just like, oh, I played Devil May Cry 3,
Yeah.
and I played around a bit with 4 and 5, and I said, I don't know if I'm going to go through it. I ended up going through both Devil May Cry 4 and 5, the standard campaigns, not to be confused with both games have Virgil as a playable character, and Devil May Cry 4 has a third campaign option with different characters. I even started a playthrough in 4 after beating it proper, where it was like one of the meme difficulties, where if you don't know, Devil May Cry, you have Human, which is normal, Devil Hunter, Human, which is easy, Devil Hunter, which is normal, Son of Sparta, which is hard, and then Dante Must Die, which is the hardest difficulty. But after that, you have 2 meme difficulties and 1 extra difficulty. You have Legendary Dark Knight, which is it's the harder difficulty, but they throw a shit ton more enemies at you, which is always cool to play around in. And then you have Heaven and Hell and Hell or Hell. And I said to myself, I'm not playing either of those because they're silly meme difficulties. Heaven or Hell is literally everything dies in one hit, you and the enemies, and then Hell and Hell is you die in one hit and everything else is normal. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then I ended up I'm like halfway through a Heaven and Hell playthrough, so I was really feeling it, is basically what I was saying. But going back and playing these 2 games directly after Devil May Cry 3, I just gotta say I appreciate all of the games a bit more than I did before. Like, just
Hmm.
because nobody really makes good action games like this anymore. They're rare.
Yeah.
They normally have some kind of caveat where, like, they're tied to the Souls game, or they're more the Souls genre, or they're more hack and slash. I think the closest we got was kind of Stellar Blade recently. But
All
I
right.
remember when Devil May Cry 5 came out, I did like a little video on it, and I basically said, it's one of the few quality action games of like
Yeah, you don't see
2
many of them
decades.
now.
Yeah, it's like I know Bayonetta 3 came out at one point, and I don't know how that was. I just remember a lot of controversies around it because of outside stuff, and I'm like,
Hmm.
whatever. But overall, it's just I appreciate those games, and boy, and I hope that going forward, because we talk about games and franchises doing this whole closing of a previous chapter and moving on to a new one. Final Fantasy
Hmm.
14, Destiny, all these different games that do that. Um, I really hope that whatever happens next with Devil May Cry, they stick the landing, and I'm kind of worried because like the main guy since 3, he left Capcom not too long ago. Even if he was still there, he was kind of happy with some of the Western exploits in the series. Right now, you have that wacko Adi Shankar trying to like worm his way into the series, and we really don't need more of that. I guess I hope good things happen with Devil May Cry in the future, and I you know I'd almost be like saying like, oh, I'm okay with them remaking the games if I wasn't so, hesitant on remakes in general, just because I'm worried of what they're going to do next in the
Yeah.
proper sequel to the series. But we'll see what ends up happening. But that's pretty much all I've been playing. I also booted up both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City just to dick around a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to do a full playthrough, but those are always a fun time.
Yeah, classics. Absolute classics.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. All right. I mean, this is probably our fastest what we've been playing this
Yeah,
week
in a
in
while.
several weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just for me, like, I just haven't. Nothing's really been like calling out to me. Like, I beat God of War 2 weeks ago, I think. At this point, maybe it was last week. Pragmata, I blew through that. I'm just kind of back to my normal rotation. So, up until the the final Destiny update, and oh God, what else? I mean, I guess at this point, probably Modern Warfare 4. Like, I don't really know of anything on the horizon that is going to be grabbing me, or like, of course, the new Darktide class. But yeah, I mean, it's
I feel like
been
On's getting
relatively
somewhere, yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
So,
Backlog
anywho,
time.
yeah, yeah, it was one of the reasons why I re-downloaded the Dark Ages, because I loved it, and I'll probably pick it up again on like Tuesday afternoon or something. But anyway, Anthony, buddy, pal, friend, brother, tell
Yes.
me, what is this week's writing question?
Strap in for this one, Dan, because it's a contentious topic.
Oh boy, okay.
All right. The question reads as follows: with Pride Month coming up,
Oh
do you
Jesus.
think
Okay.
games companies will keep leaning into it, and do you think they will keep doing messaging in general? Dan, if you'd like to go first. This one
Messaging
actually.
and uh, no, finish your thought.
All I was going to say is this one actually came with a screenshot of a specific instance with the Warframe Twitter account announcing their thing.
So I think that the messaging will stay for the foreseeable future. I think all these companies want to positively virtue signal across the board that they are for every type of person, gamer, blah, 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 blah. But with a big old caveat of, if it ever comes to the point where it's fucking with sales numbers, I think they would do a complete 180. These
Hmm.
companies don't give a shit. They don't care.
Yeah, I think
They just do
that's
it because that they're this incredibly small minority, incredibly vocal small minority, keeps on shouting about it online, and in reality, nobody really gives a shit.
yeah.
So I don't think that they're going to stop with the messaging. I think that the only way that they will stop trying to like push it in a way that it could actually affect the product is if it affects the numbers.
Mhm.
But beyond that, I think they would just stick with status quo level operations.
Okay, no, that's a
Yeah.
pretty fair assessment, and I don't disagree with it. I just think there's a little bit more to it, but that's obvious. That's a given. I think we're pretty much at or beyond the plateau of companies joining in.
Yeah.
At least at this performative level. I think you had mentioned you basically said like these companies don't give a shit. It's all higher up. If it fucks with the numbers, it kind of goes away. And I think we're at that point where it is becoming a financial liability, depending on how loud you are about it. Which is why in recent years, those kind of performative like major AAA companies, both in gaming and out, have kind of seen it like a waning. Like they don't really prop it up as much. If they do it, they do it quietly. So if we're just looking at what you brought up, which is like these larger companies not giving a shit, they're at that point where it's like they're considering, is this still a good thing to do?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I don't think it really matters to any of them.
oh,
And even like I
of
know
course
we've
not.
talked ad nauseum about the Bungie Vidocs and how they have everybody's pronouns listed under the title
Yeah.
cards of their names. The vast majority of game developers are just people that work for these companies in general.
Hmm.
I don't think it is really an issue to the point where like you need to just be vocal about like I don't know. It's so old at this point. Like, what am I trying to say here? I don't think anyone really cares. I think it's pushed from the higher ups, and something as innocuous as pronouns in a title would like it's. I'm not saying I agree with this, but
Hmm.
it's harmless enough to include that to appease a certain audience, but it's still a slippery slope. Like,
Yeah.
obviously all that woke bullshit kind of bled into Destiny because that's a really good example right now, and it bled into Destiny like as the game, and it was a part of the marketing materials as well because of these pronouns in the title card. And like every single time I would watch them, I would just roll my fucking eyes because no
Mm.
one. It wasn't like every time there was a pronoun, it was like, okay, that is the pronoun that I would have already assumed belonged to this person anyway, except for one person in these Vidocs, which happened to be in almost every single Vidoc from this person's hiring date. I would imagine, and
Mm.
I think that at least in Bungie and Destiny's case, that person is probably the only reason why those pronouns are in those title cards to begin
Hmm.
with. Like a lot of it really just boils down to a profile picture on Twitter or something like that. And it does like nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares except for the people that are terminally online and are just downright mentally ill.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that where you mentioned like nobody cares. It's actually kind of inverted to the point where you'll see a lot of people like, who are supposedly represented by a lot of these events and these, in game, out of game, just the month in general, the
Hmm.
different days throughout the year. A lot of them are just sick and tired of it because, there are, well, I would attest that there's a lot of people out there that really just jump onto these things to add labels to them because that's just the kind of culture they're used to. They think it's like it's trendy or it's a thing of power or something. But there are just normal people out there to whom that these different designations belong, and they're tired of it. So it's kind of like it's like the people that are they're supposedly being represented are just like, you're making me look bad. I don't want to be in the spotlight, all that kind of stuff. But to get back on the main track, my general opinion is that the boom was years ago. The bust really isn't here yet. I'm not saying that there will be a complete die-off or anything. Some companies are just into that at a foundational level, or some of them will consider the risk too great to bail out. But interest and incentive has been fading in recent years. It peaked a while ago. I would say it peaked about.
Yeah.
I would say the peak was about 5 years ago, maybe
Yeah,
6.
it was a
Um,
long time ago at this point. It was like
yeah.
a decent amount of time already.
Yeah, like it's weird to think about the peak that because I always think about when it started and it like a lot of this really started like 14 years ago is when it started crawling out of the internet and into your face in real
Hmm.
life. I watched that happen in real time. And that was always like yeah in the dark times, but now it's like the peak is kind of far off too. But basically what I would say is I do think a lot of companies, the big ones are probably going to be quieter and quieter. They're still going to do a lot of stuff in the background. Don't get me wrong. I think the mid-level stuff is going to be a toss-up because you're going to have AA companies that don't touch it at all, are actively against it, or are going to double down because a lot of the AA's are like people our age, maybe a little younger, a little older. They're not traditionally propped up by like older CEOs and executives. A lot of the stuff that we like to complain about. So they're more likely to be ideologically driven in one way or the other. The indies are going to be like a manic toss up, whether you're dealing with a psychopath or just a guy that wants to be left alone. It's whatever. The one thing I would say is that you need to consider if you are the kind of guy who avoids all of this kind of stuff, you need to do your research and draw your lines because it's out there at different levels and all kinds of amounts, regardless of whether we're past the peak or not. So a couple examples like Microsoft and Sony, just about every company beneath them, they fall into that higher echelon where it's like some of them will like do like one or two announcements and they might change a flag in their bio or whatever, and even that they might lean away from. But it's like if you look in the background, they obviously have a lot of policies, like weird, boring shit, like the same way that they would announce
the same way that the contract that you read last week about ArcSys or 2 weeks ago.
Exactly,
like
exactly.
That level of murky, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's on their business website, you know, their .finance website or whatever. Or, you know, Microsoft in particular has like a web page that's public, but you can go in there and you can look at all of like the different initiatives and policies from all different, you know, whether it's like, you know, the Pride stuff that we're talking about right now, or if it's just general, you know, work policy. They have all of that up, and it's just like nobody really goes there unless you're like investigating something. But yeah, so like Microsoft and Sony will always be doing it in the background until it really, really hurts their money, in which case they will just quietly pull out one day.
Can I just say that like I feel like this is actually important to at least put out there at minimum one time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to search for the right words because I want to articulate my thought in, you know, very educated manner.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't have a problem with the vast majority of like people in that community. Okay, and I'm gonna unpack that a little bit because I think that's kind of a loaded statement.
How apropos, this episode will be coming out the first day of Pride Month. This is perfect.
So we kind of came up in the age of the internet. And then, but we were like in that Goldilocks zone of, we weren't terminally online when we were children. We were still outside a lot playing and you know, in the sun and everything. But the internet like really came into its own when we were young adults, I would say. And like that was the catalyst for all this shit that we deal with today. Going back to my original point now, I don't have a problem necessarily with the vast majority of people in that community. Now, the thing that I take issue with is the fact that of like how far this, you know, quote unquote movement has gone. Like what they're trying to do, like what the end game here, like it's all this shit gets really, really murky. And that's what I take issue with. I don't have a problem with like the individual. I have a problem with the movement because it seems like there is no goalpost anywhere. There's no rules, which is just disgusting. And I think a lot of it has been hijacked by people who are genuinely mentally ill. But the individual themselves, so long as like they're not out of their fucking mind, like I really don't have a problem. You're not hurting me. I'm not going to hurt you. It's that type of thing. This has nothing to do with video games, but like we harp on this stuff a lot. I feel like it's important for us to at least make our intentions known.
It's important because like at a certain point, like if you were to get loud enough about this, like to the point where you're noticeable, everybody involved would be quizzing you about how you feel. But anyway, it's better to just say it otherwise. I mean, I need to be a bit more careful with how I speak because I tend to go off the rails with a lot of these different things. The best way I can put it,
just take a topic and run with it for 15 solid fucking minutes, my friend.
My general rule of thumb, or I guess my rule about this to kind of like match yours, is I'm of the individual. I very rarely have an issue with an individual person. What's the best way to put this? I don't like the crux of my problem with all of this is, you know, the stuff we talk about month over month over month over month, you know, the kind of stuff that's just been shoehorned in everywhere, a lot of the performative nature. My general opinion on all of this is that the ones that aren't normal, the ones that are just troublemakers or people in it for trends and all that kind of stuff causing all the problems, like the ones who would actually go into video games and ruin them, or the ones that would like get in your face and all that kind of stuff. Those people are not represented by what they're like all the flag and the pride shit. They're using it as like a cudgel and a shield. Yeah. And at the same time, so like I look at it this way: you get rid of those people, you get rid of these events that serve nobody. Everybody's just better off.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
That's my general opinion. That's my general opinion. And my you know, I'm gonna leave my opinion on other things on the wayside because then you know how I'll sound about that. But the rule of thumb is like, I guess all I can say is this: if we got rid of those people and we got rid of these events, I think everybody, all the normal people, would be very much happier and better off, and there wouldn't be the kind of tensions that like you mentioned. You like, I wouldn't say you were trying to skirt around, but you were trying to be, you know, sensitive about it. I would say
I was just trying to be respectful. I think that's the best word for it.
You wouldn't even need to be if none of this stuff existed. Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Again, completely
I'm not saying you disagree.
110% agree with you. You
Yeah.
know, but this is just the reality that we live in, unfortunately. And bad actors can just infect basically whatever they want under the guise of X, Y, and Z movement. Like, it doesn't matter what banner they're flying. It's just the fact that they're grifters. And
Yeah.
whether it's video games, movies, books, TV, whatever, like it's all largely cut from the same cloth. So we don't have to bring this up again. I just, like I said, we harp on this topic quite a lot. And I
Yeah,
just felt like it was very important to really plant our flag and which side of the line that we're actually on.
Yeah, no, that's my whole thing. But I could do a whole podcast,
I'm sure, yeah.
relegating my opinions and exactly why I have them. But I don't think that would serve anybody any purpose. So back to the main topic, where I was talking about Microsoft and Sony. Basically, they're going to be doing it in the background, all that kind of stuff. There's going to be other companies that are really bought in, like Blizzard and Riot, who have like their revenue stream on the side. No matter how bad they do, every year they're going to buy in. They're going to put that stuff in. They're going to keep retconning characters, all that kind of stuff. And while I do think overall that the nature of companies being a bit more quieter is obviously a good sign, because once again, all this performative nonsense, it serves nobody. It's just it hurts relations between people. It doesn't champion anybody who's genuinely that these things are built around allegedly. It's
Just
like a
normal
minority.
people.
It's the minority that's surrounded by a nut job majority, like that
Yeah.
kind of, like, nobody's served by all this. So over time,
Yeah, like-
what I guess I should say in all of this is, like, all this stuff that's like, it's kind of in the same bucket as all the other stuff we talk about. All this is a set time limit. Like, this can't go on forever, because it's just in the face of
Well, it's
how
just
things
unsustainable.
work. Yeah, exactly. It's never been sustainable.
Well, that goes back to my original point from the writing question, where the moment that any of this shit like becomes tangible evidence on paperwork that it's affecting a bottom line somewhere, they will put the kibosh on it so fucking fast.
We've already seen that to a degree. Was
Yeah.
it last year? Jagex, the RuneScape guys, I think they pulled out, and they tried to make it a big. The guys around them tried to make it a big deal, and who knows if they're doing something this month, maybe. But they went from the very least being prominent about it to very quietly about it. But
The biggest guys that stick out for me right now are the developers of Lords of the Fallen. Like, they put out something a few weeks ago about the female character designs,
Yeah, we
and
talked
they
about
looked
it, yeah.
really fucking good. And like, it was exactly the shit that you would think that you would see in like the OG Soul Calibur on Xbox, 20 something years ago. Like, if that looked like how a female should look in a video game. And the developers were like, "This is what you wanted. This is what we made. Everyone that likes the game seems to be happy with this. Like, this is what we're doing."
Yeah,
They had no patience for woke bullshit.
Yeah, and that's a big part. Like, because it's almost weird to talk about, because it's like, obviously and this is by design. Obviously, these events, they try to make the events about the people they're supposedly representing, when in a lot of cases it is directly linked to a lot of the other things. I don't like to say immediately that every example of this is directly linked to those kind of things, but they go hand in hand. And they're normally they are normally together. So it's insidious the way they do that, and it's one of the primary functions of celebrating the events in this way, is to kind of snake that stuff in. And if you or I have a problem with the way that the games are being handled, because it's no longer about the games, they're just doing things for a messaging bullet point.
Yep.
They kind of beat you over the head with, it's like, oh, so you don't care about X, Y, or Z people, and which is another reason why it's not sustainable. But
Right.
basically, the answer of that question is that, like, I do think we've kind of gotten past that, but the caveat to that is that the people that want it and the people that desire it, or not that specifically, but have been using it as cover for other things, or kind of see it as a tool to get their way, and other factors that don't actually relate at all to any of, like, the supposed reasons behind these events, they are going to, much like everything else I discussed, they are going to be fighting tooth and nail and getting louder than they were before. It's gonna be regardless of whether it shifts back to everybody's quiet, or it is a complete die off and decoupling however many years from now. We're kind of in that period where, like, people are gonna get nasty because they see it as like a last stand for this kind of stuff. Not as a whole. I just mean the actors that got it here, I guess you could say, right? Like, maybe this month is just, by the numbers, it's a little quieter. Some of the accounts put up this, that, or the other thing. But underneath all that are the advocates for it that would be fighting tooth and nail. That's the stuff you got to look for.
Right.
That and
It's very
obviously,
murky.
yeah,
Very
and
murky.
it's all by design. That's
Yep.
the only reason why we're standing here. 10 years later, after like hit the mainstream and became like a whole cultural political thing, and it's all murky and ingrained into every part of your life specifically for that reason.
Mm.
But I guess the to kind of stopper on this question, because I don't want to get too off track. We still have a lot of games to talk about.
Yeah.
I do think that we're kind of at that make or break point for them. I think that in the next couple of years, this year and the next couple, you're gonna see a kind of and it's kind of tough to really say because it's completely determinant on things that happen throughout the year leading up to it. Obviously, you are going to see a lot of kicking and screaming as normalcy tries to set its way back in, I guess you could say. Now, that's not to say, like, once again, there are some people who are just ideologically bought into this and they'll be doing it left, right, and center. But I think the stakes are going to be higher. I don't think it's going to be done with much backing. And most importantly, I think we're going to see some of these social pressures fall away, where like it's not like an immediate like you have to be worried about saying anything about it. You're not going to say well, I don't like this, and then have people you thought were your friends kind of like beat you over the head with it. Like that's kind of weird. That's the kind of social standing that's been set up the last couple of years.
Yeah, just as an aside, and I'm not going to go into it, but I just wanted to. This is a good anecdotal piece. I lost an entire circle of friends over this shit, who I was very, very close with for many years, and nobody but it just I lost an entire group of friends because pretty much every person bought into the ideology, and I was just sitting there like, you guys have collectively lost your fucking minds. And like, I haven't spoken to them in at minimum 11 years.
The crazy thing about that, Dan, is even if you had said something more reasonable, like I don't know if I agree with this, you'd probably be in the same fucking spot anyway. Because
I did say something. I did.
No. But you put your foot down because you're you. I know how you are. I know how you speak. But I'm just saying, like, let's say you say, like, I'm not so sure about this. Like, instead of like putting your foot down, you'd still be in that same boat.
Oh, I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah, this kind of that's just the way it is. These are the kinds of things that have gotten their way into different institutions across the way. So like we complain about the gaming stuff, and we complain about the performative stuff and all that stuff, but it's like an infection global.
No, it's like that
affects
problem.
People's critical thing. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
So I guess that's to say is we're in a very turbulent time for these kind of ideas, right?
Yeah.
So in the gaming zone where it first wormed its way in, we're kind of at like a fever breaking point. But who's to say what might happen in the next couple of years? I guess And the last thing I'll say, just because it was the example that came with it, Warframe, there's not really too much to add. I think they've been doing this for the last 5 years or so, and because of their size, once you buy in, it's like that's just where your head's at for a while. I think they're very small, smaller than AA. Would you say? I don't know exactly how big they are.
Digital Extremes.
Yeah.
They're
small.
They
right?
are probably right in between AA and AAA. I mean, I think
so they've
Warframe has been
years?
going on for a long time.
But I never got I thought they were kind of like Arrowhead in the case that they didn't really expand aggressively as a result. But maybe I could be wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not in the whole Warframe zeitgeist.
Yeah, as far as basically my only thing I would say that I've noticed,
they have a little over 450 employees.
Okay, so it's bigger than I expected. Okay,
yeah,
so they're a bit bigger than I was expecting. More But the one thing I would say that is surprising compared to just the fact that they're doing it is that they are getting an immense amount of negative feedback. Like after we got this question, I went and I found the post in question that was being talked about, and it's like whoever's running the social media account, they've been hiding replies left and right on the different social media. Which I went back to their previous year posts just to kind of compare them. This seems like it's a growing trend for them. Like year over year, they seem to be getting more and more pushback on this. And obviously, some of this could be people that don't play the game that just like to stir shit, because we're getting to that point where it's just after one side, having like the dominant voice for a while online in all these different places, you can finally talk a bit more about it the other way around. So it could just be shit stirrers there, but it's one of those not sustainable kind of things. If you have a guy getting paid hourly to fucking block people online. I actually know a guy who's more into these kind of games. Who, he plays Destiny, plays Warframe. He actually found out the other day that he was blocked by the Warframe Twitter account despite never interacting with them at all, which leads me to believe that whoever is running the account is overly sensitive enough to be using block lists to preemptively block people. So
Based off of what, his online post history or something?
I asked him. He doesn't post all that often, but there are people out there that if you say one bad thing once, they put you on a list and they share that list with other people, and that's how you end up getting preemptively blocked by all these people.
That's honestly outrageous. That's crazy.
You were talking about terminally online before. Yeah. Well, you got it.
Jesus Christ, but that's nuts.
Yeah,
but to single out one individual from a game that has thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of players, and then because that means that person, whoever's running the social media account, had to go out of their way to find something that they didn't like enough to block your friend, even if he doesn't post anything. That's wild.
Or even what's more likely, and it's even worse than that, is they're blindly trusting people that they just happen to agree with ideologically to preemptively block it without even knowing what the person said in the first place.
Oh,
so
slippery fucking slope.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say on all this, is that ultimately a great deal of this is performative. In the meantime, if you are not a fan of it, you just talk about it. Do the only thing you can. If you don't like something, don't support it. Sometimes it's something you love, sometimes it's something you hate, sometimes it's a game you have hundreds of hours in, but you can't support things that you don't agree with. You gotta find your line, you gotta draw where it is. Some people will be as simple as what they do this coming month. For some people, it'll be maybe you don't like one developer. You know me, how I get about censorship and localization. Some people are like that with fucking everything. And the other thing I'll say is the companies that lean into this, they tend to have very, very nasty communities around them, very hostile. So I mean, it's not even worth. They're fucking brutal. It's a bunch of people who say they're the kinds of guys that will walk up to me or you, whenever there's a new game that we like a Mass Effect or something, and there's a weird change in it we don't like, and they'll say, I'll have you know that Mass Effect was always for the queers. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's those kind of people, and then they're surrounded by people who pretend they're neutral, but they're just oh god, why are you complaining? You were the problem. You're just such an awful person for even bringing up this person is trying to take this thing from you, which is weird enough to even try to do in the first place, because this is all entertainment media at the end of the day. And I guess this is just to end this long-winded rant. We saved our time in the what you've been playing just to go down a different kind of rabbit hole. Is that I do think, again, we are past the peak, short of something exceptional happening. And it's really just a matter of in what fashion, to what degree we slide back in a different direction towards normalcy. And the one wild card in all this is that the people that are involved, because these things have unfortunately been linked to forces that do things other than just celebrate people and individuality, we're going to see kicking and screaming, the likes of which we have not seen in quite some time. So we'll see what happens. Ultimately I do think we're heading for a good place. It's just a matter of how much shit we go through until we get to that, because I mean, I think I said the same thing 2 years ago, and everything's pretty much lined up with what I said back then too. It's 2 years is about when we'll get out of this, and we are kind of getting out of this. It's just I didn't anticipate how crazy some people were going to get. Silly me. So
yeah, you can never really underestimate the craziness of the general public.
Yeah, it's a very popular saying whenever something wild happened culturally or politically in the last 10 years or so. I just wanted to play video games.
Yeah, right? How difficult is that?
How fucking difficult is that?
See, Anthony, unfortunately, my friend, you are burdened with knowledge.
I'm burdened with knowledge, and I'm burdened with a soft target of a fucking entertainment medium. I'm telling you, man, it's one of these days. Maybe in the golden years when things have just been good for a long time, I'll sit you down and I'll go over all the crazy shit. Down. Yeah, it'll be Dan, so all that crazy shit's finally behind us. Now I'm going to read out to you specifically what happened and what
you have to fucking strap me into a chair and hold my eyes open.
There you go.
Oh God. Okay. So thank you for the write-in question. We know that was a very long-winded response, and we kind of
Yeah.
went off on a tangent there for a
Just
bit,
a
but
smidgen.
we are back. So let's get into the next bit of news that we want to talk about. And we missed a bunch of shit from last week too because we were just talking about the death of Destiny for so long. But sorry to disappoint everybody. We're going to talk about it a little bit more because there has been so much that's come out in the past 7 days after the fallout of the announcement that Bungie made that they were basically putting Destiny 2 into maintenance mode. It's effectively shutting down. You can still play it and everything, but the game is no longer a live game. It's not going to be getting more updates and blah blah blah. So, on that note, I have a bunch of notes written down, and they're all pretty much out of order, just because I was writing them down as I was thinking about them or as I was seeing shit online. So, if you have an opinion or you want to interject or something, or you have a question or whatever, please do not hesitate to stop me.
I will chime in where necessary, but I otherwise don't have too much to add. I'm going to be following you yet again on this.
I'm sure. So I'm gonna kind of sift through this the best I can live, and we'll go from there.
All right.
So the ultimate reason why Destiny ended up going out the way that it did was, and I'm sure I touched on this before, but it is pretty much confirmed at this point. It was just straight up hubris from Bungie leadership, like high up Bungie leadership. The only person, name, and face that as a community that we really have to point to is Pete Parsons, because he was pretty heavily under the microscope during the Sony acquisition. It's pretty apparent at this point that he, and I'm sure several other people, sold Sony a bill of goods knowing full well that they could never deliver on it. So, I mean, look, the list of Sony flops and failures, specifically in the live service space, is abundant. I actually, I had a list before. I looked it up because I was genuinely curious. I should have saved it. Shit. Whatever. We'll have to skip that part. Anyway, point being, it's a lot. One of them holding the record for the biggest flop in video game history being Concord, which is like here's the thing that boggles my mind. Sony bought Firewalk and Concord as an IP. They paid almost $500 million for it, and then they put out what was ultimately an unfinished project, and then they ended up shutting it down in 2 weeks. Like, that's I don't want to go into Concord again, but like that's just a different level of failure. And clearly they are repeating the same mistake with Marathon. Not even with Destiny, because Destiny already has a built-in community. Like, it's right there. They're doing it with Marathon, so much so that they are making the game free to play for, is it a weekend or is it a full week? It's like coming up pretty soon.
I think it's, I want to say it's the weekend, but that doesn't sound right. It might be longer than that.
Marathon, actually, I have to know.
Yeah.
Marathon free week. So as of 2 days ago from Games Radar, why can't you just give me the fucking dates? Like, okay, Marathon's first free week runs from June 2nd to the 9th. So it will. So
it is a full week.
It'll be free on Tuesday. Yeah, it's a full week. But the point being is that you shouldn't be charging, or you shouldn't be giving the game away for free for essentially a trial for a week when the game is less than 6 months old and it's hurting as much as it is. Like, that shouldn't be where you are right now, and yet here we are. So my point being, the entire reason why Bungie failed is because of complete hubris from on high. And I say on high because it has now come out that the Destiny developers, like the actual people in the trenches that are making the game every single day, there have been more leaks than fucking, I don't know, I can't think of a clever allegory. There's been a lot of leaks. So the biggest one of all is there was this thing called Destiny Infinity that was pitched over and over and over again. And Anthony, do you remember we've talked about a bunch of times, like Call of Duty All-Stars, or like so
Yes.
Call of Duty Online, like where it's just
Yes.
they just pluck the greatest hits from all the different Call of Duties, whether it's skins, weapons, maps, modes, whatever, and they all just throw them in one game. And it was actually live for a long time in China.
Hmm.
That was essentially what Destiny Infinity was going to be. Now, obviously, they were going to have to update it basically indefinitely, but like you ask any Destiny player, myself included, like that's a really cool idea. But a combination of Bungie leadership before they bought Sony and Sony overall just didn't want to do anything with that. So that was thrown in the dumpster essentially. Which is really really sad because that would have been an awesome way to like at the very least like keep the Destiny IP alive and somewhat active for a time while they're on their next project. Doesn't have to necessarily be Destiny 3, but that's what the community wanted.
Hmm.
So all this shit has been coming out over the past 7 days, and they also put out their blog post of what the final live update is going to be. And
Hmm.
Anthony, when I tell you it is chocked full of shit that the community has been asking for literally years.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think it was personally. I don't think it. I don't think it was a situation like, oh, this is going to be the last one. Let's give them everything they've ever wanted. I think they were probably working on the vast majority of this stuff for months prior to all the news that has come out. And I mean, that's just how live service games work. They had to have been working on this for a long time before it was ever going to see the light of day. That's just how it works.
Hmm.
So it kind of makes it very bittersweet on the 9th because we're going to get this awesome update and then but knowing in the back of all of our heads that this is going to be the last one, so that kind of sucks, but at least we have something to look forward to on the 9th.
Hmm.
I have noticed that the Destiny community overall is like they are in full blown anger stage of the stages of grief. um, and so much so that the the Destiny and the Marathon community the world over are pretty much in a civil war right now. There has been a lot of different content creators on both sides of the aisle that are blaming each other or just
Hmm.
taking shots at each other, and
I've
it's
noticed a lot of
quite
that.
yeah, it's quite unbecoming. Now, we've talked last week that uh, both you and I don't think that Marathon was like the sole reason why Destiny went down, but it certainly didn't help. But
Hmm.
it's also a very easy target for anybody out there to just like look at and point to and saying, "You killed my game." Like that's a very, very, very easy target to have, even though I don't think that that's accurate. Um, and I know that you would agree with me on that one as well. So, yeah, the Destiny and the Marathon communities are in all-out civil war right now, and the only people that are actually suffering are Bungie, which is pretty ironic. Um, like the whole thing is just nuts. Like I don't want to go over the whole numbers thing again because we already did
Yeah.
that. But like, goddamn, man, like you just look at it on paper. It Destiny was obviously the clear winner as far as if you wanted to have a live action game, live service game. Like Bungie just Bungie, god damn it, Marathon. It just it cannot possibly do what Sony and Bungie not only want but what they need it to do. Like it is so niche in so many ways, and now they're just it's obvious they're throwing anything against the wall to see what sticks to bring more players in, including a free week, and it's not going to be enough. Like that's just not the way to go. And now they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't.
I
So,
mean,
I, yeah.
what I was gonna say is really just quick, just before I try to throw comments at just everything is, at a certain point, it's not like you say marathon isn't what it needs to be, and I agree with you, and I also agree that it's not necessarily what players want either, especially the Destiny players who are now homeless. It's I just the thing is, Bungie and Sony have been in a bad spot for a while. Bungie in particular, Sony more for their misguided attempts that they've been making since the leadership changed from Japan to the United States.
Hmm.
You brought up Marathon. I'm sorry, not Marathon. You brought up Concord before, and the only reason I'm bringing it up again now is because they were willing to throw so much money at that company and that IP because they saw value in maybe just one healthy live service revenue stream. And that's kind of what's going on here. It's just Bungie was supposed to deliver one solid revenue source and then transition into two solid revenue sources optimally. That's what Sony at the end of the day wanted from it. And nothing else really matters. So like you're describing a lot of problems that make sense to a player of Destiny, to a player of video games, to just people in general. This mad scramble, this back and forth, these desperate attempts, throwing everything against the wall, is purely just because, at the end of the day, as things stand right now, Bungie needs to have one trickle, at the very least, of some kind of revenue and player base stream. And right now, they hedge their bets. They're placing it on Marathon. It's not like this isn't like, oh, a company. Well, I mean, it partially is like a company being greedy and saying, we need this, we need that, we need the other thing, right?
Well, it was
That's
absolutely
there.
them being greedy a few years ago when they
Yes.
decided to do the massive hiring and open up like two other Bungie offices.
Yes, yes. It's company greed is part of it, but like the main reason all these things right now are happening is they're just making educated guesses about what will make them the most money. It's no longer about reputation or the overall player experience right now. It's what they're trying to put a train on a track, and then they're worried about everything else later. And right now that train is Marathon.
Right.
As for what you said before about the content and the patch being everything that players ever wanted, this
No,
patch,
that's not what I said.
or like that's, I'm sorry, it's just that's how it's being described. It's like it's just a good patch. That's what people are
Right.
saying. That is a result of the extreme circumstances of Bungie just working on stuff in the background and saying, now that Destiny 2 is no longer getting content, let's just put everything in there and throw it against the wall. And I'm sure there's also more than a few developers who actually give a shit still at Bungie. You know, it's a small amount, but they're still there. Also getting in their last hurrah. Like, I've heard so many people say it. I'm not saying you said it this time. I'm just saying people in general have said, like, why didn't Bungie just do this like a month ago? And my only response to that is the reason they didn't do it a month ago is because this is literally them emptying the closet of every idea they ever had and everything they had laying around, because they will never be able to do anything like this again.
So,
Bungie
yes
has been
and no. Yes and no on that front. Finish your thought, but I'll get into it.
the last thing I just want to say is, and I know this because of the thing that everybody loves to meme on them about, where they basically said they need to set expectations with their releases. So like this unprecedented sudden patch where like everyone's talking, oh, how good it is, and obviously I'm skeptical about how perfect this is in the minds of some players, right? Obviously, you know, it's a hindsight thing now that the door's basically closing on Destiny. But I'm like, there's a lot of talk going on right now, and I think everybody is just kind of like, they're kind of blinded by the circumstances and not really talking or receiving everything that's going on with Destiny appropriately. That's all. On top of everything I already said about the corporate stuff.
Right. So the whole notion of them like emptying out the closet and throwing everything they have against the wall, I don't. So you are partly right and also slightly wrong, because a lot of the stuff that has come out after the news broke, excuse me, a lot of stuff that's come out after the news broke was from several developers that have been working on Destiny for years. There was absolutely no shortage of ideas that they wanted to implement into the game that players not only wanted but were also asking for, and would have just received a positive reception regardless. There was a bunch of that stuff that they pitched to Bungie management, and and this was long before Sony, but they kept on saying no. For what reason? Couldn't tell you. But the ideas were there, right? Like they were definitely there. They just weren't given the green light or the funding to actually go ahead and put it into the game. So I think you're like 50% right and 50% wrong in that assessment of like them just throwing everything they have against the wall. But there were definitely ideas over the years that would have been clear W's for the game. But they just, for whatever reason, decided to not do it, which sucks, but here we are.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, I am cognizant of the fact that Bungie had multiple off-ramps beforehand, and there were probably more than a few ideas in there that could have been implemented at some point in time I'm just commenting on like the now and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So I only have a couple more points to get to for the fallout of this, and then we can move on. Number one is that so that make Destiny or the We Want Destiny 3 petition that's been going around. It's at over 300,000 signatures right now, but my stance on this has not changed. I don't think that that a petition is going to do anything, nor do I think a player surge on the 9th is going to do anything. However, I am still going to log in on the 9th to play for one last time for posterity. I actually downloaded it before I left my house today, and I was planning on playing it a little bit, and then we just dove into Helldivers. So I mean, whatever. I think that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I don't think that the petition is going to do anything. Like, it's cool that a bunch of people signed it. I have not. I probably should, just as like a Destiny player worth their salt. But I don't think it's going to do anything, and I don't think that a player surge is going to do anything either. So I just wanted to hammer that point home again. The one of the other last things that I wanted to mention was there have been a lot of very cryptic tweets from the communications manager, from other leakers and blah blah blah, of like kind of subtly hinting at the fact that they have something cooking in the background. Maybe not necessarily Destiny 3, but there's something. I don't know, man. I'm not really that convinced, and maybe my skepticism is coming from you, from us being friends for basically our entire fucking lives, and doing this podcast now for what are we on year 2 at this point?
Close to, if not there.
Yeah, like it's probably a large part that we talk about video games so often, but I'm very skeptical at the fact that there's anything going on behind the scenes like Destiny related. I would love to be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I just don't see it. I just don't like everything that Bungie and Sony have said since this all happened, and all their future plans. Like, it just does not telegraph anything. And a handful of tweets from like a comms manager who is probably a little disgruntled, probably more than a little disgruntled at how this whole thing, happened, including other industry insiders / like prominent leakers. I don't buy it. I just don't. Maybe it was a part of the plan at one point, but definitely not now.
I think. I mean, here's the thing. Is it possible that like all of this is like a last gasp ploy for Sony to get some kind of investment in Destiny, and then potentially do like something afterwards? I think it's possible. There's an incredibly minuscule chance of that being the case, but weird things have happened, and I don't think it's completely impossible, right? I just don't think it's even close to likely. What we're really seeing is just I think emotions are flying high, obviously, because of the nature of all this. As far as like the insiders and leakers and like the cryptic statements from the development team, I think, I don't know, I can't remember what the exact term is, but I think it's more that they're trying to will it into existence while also commenting on things that they have in there. There have been so many examples just in general, but also obviously very much in gaming, where like things are up in the air and they're trying to, and like people who are in the know that at the very least that have some kind of inkling, feeling, or knowledge that like it's not a completely done deal, will like inflate smaller like tidbits of information in order to potentially push companies and management and get that opinion going. I don't think it's very likely. I think if it's the case, if it is the very likely case that Sony is just they're pulling the plug on Destiny in order to support Marathon because that's what they see Bungie as useful for at the moment, I don't think Sony's going to be swayed by any amount of petitions, because while I am very much keen on players and people grouping together and joining together for a cause that they enjoy, making their voices heard, voting with their wallets, I like all that stuff, and it's really the only way you have to. Like, these companies, just when they make a decision at a certain point, they just do not give a shit. Have things happened in the past that like that you can influence things a certain way? Yes, but like we're at the tail end of a very, very costly like bungling for these two companies, and I don't think that it's not gonna if something were to happen, it's not gonna be from a community rallying overnight. It's just not gonna happen.
No, I'm with you, and like my logical brain thinks exactly that. My emotional brain, like, I want there to be an announcement so bad, but like I'm not. I think if I were still playing Destiny daily like I was, I'm sure my tune would be very, very different. But I
Probably.
have now been I haven't logged in since December. So like that's a long time. That's what, 6 months
Yeah.
at this point. Like I've not played for long enough to like pretty much sever that emotional tie. Like, and if something is announced, and like I said, I'm gonna be logging in on the 9th. Like, I'm still gonna play the game one last time. If something is announced, like I'm definitely gonna start. I'll definitely play it. Or at least I think so.
Hmm.
um, I think my tune would be very different. Okay, second to last thing, and then I'll talk about the last thing I want to say about Destiny, and then we can just move right along.
Yeah.
So all the not all of, but a lot of the very prominent voice actors for the different very well-known Destiny characters like put out their like farewell video posts and everything like that,
Mm.
and like they all did it in their characters' voices, which I thought was really cool. And it was just like it was kind of a touching moment for the community because everyone had their reaction videos and shit and whatever.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, all of the every single voice actor who put out a video ended it with like, Guardians make their own fate, like, sign the
Hmm.
petition, let's make Destiny 3, like something along
Yeah.
those lines. And I'm like, yeah, it's a nice sentiment, but you just got finished, got through saying that's not going to do anything for Sony. Like these are numbers people. They are not. These
Yeah.
people aren't gamers.
And I should also note, like, I do get that it kind of sucks because a lot of this is really the fault of Destiny and Bungie. It's, as far as I can tell, the players just wanted a good Destiny. The
Right.
actors, I don't think, have done anything negative. It's just really just all the things we've ever talked about is not from a lack of potential from the Destiny IP. It's always just been a lack of quality management and game direction. That's
Yeah.
really that's and it's so it does. I can acknowledge that it sucks. You know.
So that actually uh, is going to lead perfectly into the last thing I want to talk about, and that is, I think this whole situation is pretty unique, and
Yeah.
I think that the entire gaming community as a whole has felt a sort of way about this for a variety of reasons. It doesn't matter if you play Destiny or not.
Mhm.
But I think that the entire population who plays video games would at the very least be aware of Destiny's existence, and then by extension be aware of the death of Destiny.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this game was like, you know, days away from being unplayable. I mean, it might have been, because the player numbers were slowly declining because they didn't put anything out for months at a time. But like the game was so loved by the entire community, or at least the ones that were vocal, and by extension, the rest of the video game community. You don't have to have played Destiny or Destiny 2 to recognize that this is just a shitty situation all around, especially for the fans. This is just a really tragic thing to happen in the world of video games. Whether you can argue the fact that like it was time for Destiny to end or not, like fine. I think that it was absolutely time for Destiny 2 to end. They were just making gambles and throwing shit against the wall after the final shape because they didn't really know what to do, and they were never greenlit for a third game. But it was just the way that it was handled. That is the biggest part of this whole thing. The way that it was handled, the very cold, calculating decision making of the manner in which Sony decided to pull the plug, and then how P. Parsons and whoever else was at the top making these deals and decisions, got their golden parachute and is never to be heard from again, and the rest of us are left holding the philosophical bag.
Mm.
So that's the last point that I'll make on Destiny and the death of Destiny, short of something earth-shattering coming out in the next, however, whatever. So yeah, it's just a really sad situation.
Yeah. I get
I
it.
would love to go back into the world of Destiny and continue hammering away, but there's really no point anymore.
Yeah.
All my friends who played it as religiously as I did moved on. The game has been in its largest content drought ever, even now until the 9th, and now like what's the point? Like I said, I'm going to play on the 9th just for the last time for posterity, and then I will move on with my life. And if they announce another project or game or whatever, I will be the first person sitting down to see what they have to say. But yeah, I think that the gaming community overall felt this one, not because of the fact that it was not time for the game to end. It probably was, just the way that it was handled. That's all. It could have been done a lot better, but that is not the reality that we live in.
Yeah, I do think ultimately it's just it bears repeating. It's just like, you had said it's like it's about time that Destiny 2 like ended, closed the book on it, and in the back of my mind it's like I appreciate that and I agree with that. Imagine if they never put the game in a spot where that needed to
I know. Well, yeah, that's always the hindsight 2020 thing, and of course.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if it wasn't mismanaged, I mean, it could have potentially had staying power on the level of fucking like games like RuneScape. You have
EVE Online.
You cornered a fucking market. And what'd you do with it?
Oh, that was something that I missed, and I promise this is the very last thing.
That's
but
perfect.
I said it last week. There is no market replacement for this game. There's not.
Yeah,
Warframe is not the same thing. Yeah,
I've seen people say Warframe. I've seen people say like the first
Division,
Ascendant
maybe.
and
No,
the
it's
Division.
not.
It's like, listen, I can understand why people are saying that. There are similarities, but they're all very different and distinct.
Yeah.
I think people are getting hung up on like the RPG element spread, where like you have the skills and the fact that you have like these mini open worlds to navigate, but nobody's paying attention to the core mechanics and underlying like gameplay that you do in any of these games. They're just saying like, oh well, Destiny's dying, play this. And I think that's bad, even if it was 1-to-1, because it's like you never want to say like, oh well, this game's dead, go play. That doesn't work out for like the people playing both games. That doesn't work out for the game itself. It's just, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the ship could have been righted years ago, but it wasn't, and this is how it ended up. So okay, enough about Destiny. Until something else earth-shattering comes out.
Yes.
Okay.
Next
what's
up
the next
was
thing? Yeah.
Modern Warfare 4. That's where we were headed.
Oh boy, yeah. I got a bunch of notes for this too.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to think that before Modern Warfare 2019, we were talking about rumors of Modern Warfare 4, and then it led to a reboot, and now we're talking about the legitimate, actual first ever Modern Warfare 4. So I've seen quite a bit myself. I've done a very little bit of research. I know a little bit about the gameplay and the systems, but I will follow you in through your notes because I know you have quite a bit to say and you've taken a few notes yourself.
I have, yes. Okay, so number one, I am such a fucking sucker for this sub-franchise in particular. The Modern Warfare brand as an IP for Call of Duty.
I call it sub-series.
All right, sorry.
Is that accurate? No, you can call it whatever you want. You said you're not sure what to call it, or you seemed unsure what to call it. That's what I call it. I don't know if that makes sense.
I've been calling it sub-franchise in my head for a while. Sub-series, that's the same thing.
Whatever you want to call it. Don't let me impede on your wordage here.
So, I mean, back in 2007, when Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare released, I mean, oh god, dude, we played the shit out of that game.
Oh yes.
Oh my god, like. We had to have brought this up on the podcast at least once before, but like we would end up running like ground war lobbies, and we would have people on deck waiting to get in because we were just organizing these private games, and we had so many people because you went to one school district, I went to another, so we had people from both districts like waiting to get in just to play Modern Warfare. It is one of my fondest gaming memories ever. It was just what a monumental game-changing game. So yeah, I'm pretty biased in this regard. Like I will try to be as objective as possible, but I fucking love Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare 3, the story was horrendous, god awful, because they tried to shoehorn Warzone into the fucking campaign. Whatever, it doesn't even make any sense. And they did my boy so dirty. I will never forgive them for that. That was awful. The way that he went out, just terrible. And then, like, inversely, in the OG Modern Warfare 3, like, how they killed Soap off in Modern Warfare 3 was, well, like, that plus Price's initial reaction was just fucking gut wrenching to me. It was God, I loved those games.
Yeah.
So okay, so they came out with a campaign trailer, right? Now, you sent me a teaser that was leaked like the hour before the actual teaser, like the actual trailer went up. So I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, this looks cool. Like, another piece of leaked gameplay.
And then boom.
And then boom, I checked in my feeds and it was just up. I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, Anthony just told me about this. So the first thing that I'll say is when I watched the trailer, in the first 30 seconds, Anthony, I genuinely could not tell if it was live action or pre-rendered. It looked so photorealistic. It looked so good. And in my opinion, it's because they're leaving behind the previous gen consoles for the first time in the franchise's history, which is such a good decision. Oh my God. Such a good decision. So graphically, it looks amazing, but that's been the case for every Modern Warfare game to come out since 2019. I think Black Ops 7 looks terrible as a video game. And Cold War looked very video gamey. It didn't look very photorealistic, in my opinion. So just like, I'm just bringing those up as points of reference. Modern Warfare 4 looks like it's fucking real. It's like a little weird. So that was my first initial reaction. The story itself, just gleaming what I could from the trailer, I am very interested to see where they are going with this story. I don't know if they like cut some things together for marketing / like trailer purposes, but based on what I have seen so far, I'm in. I'm in. It looked like I was probably going to buy Modern Warfare 4 anyway on no grounds besides the fact that it's being developed by Infinity Ward, which is something else that I want to go into. I'll just jump into it now because I already brought it up. A lot of I feel like we're seeing history repeat itself here a little bit, because when the marketing machine was spinning up for Modern Warfare 2019, Activision went out of their way to tell the core Call of Duty audience, especially those of us like you and I who've been around since literally the very beginning, that it's being developed by largely the same people who made the original trilogy. And that went miles for me because, like,
of course,
it's, first of all, top tier, like, industry leading talent, number one. Number two, they are already intimately familiar with the characters, the story, the backsetting, all that shit. Like, it's already, it's just going to be like riding a bike for them. Number three, at the time, Infinity Ward really needed a win because they were just coming off of a string of terrible CODs. And then Modern Warfare 2019 came out, and it injected such life into the IP overall that, like, that we rarely see that in video games today, especially of all things Call of Duty. So that was really, really cool. So the fact that number one, Mark Grigsby is the fucking co-studio head of Infinity Ward now. Yeah. If anybody who's listening, if you don't know who Mark Grigsby is, on Modern Warfare 2019, probably 2 and 3 as well, he was the lead animator or like director of animation or something like that. But he also worked on the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. He is the inspiration for the character Griggs for the Marines in Call of Duty 4. Like, Mark Grigsby is instrumental to the success of the Modern Warfare series, and by extension Call of Duty overall, because without Call of Duty 4, I'm sorry, COD would not be what it is today. Like, Call of Duty 2 was excellent, don't get me wrong, but 4, that was a different animal altogether. Like, that thing, oh man, like, Call of Duty 4 is the reason why shooters play like they do today. But I'm getting off topic here. Mark Grigsby is the co-head of Infinity Ward now. Jack O'Hara is the other co-head of Infinity Ward. I believe he has been on board for the same amount of time. Less of a known name, though. Joe Seacott has been with Infinity Ward since Oh, I'm probably gonna get called out, but I want to say Modern Warfare 2 or 3, like the OG Modern Warfare 2 or 3. I could be
Mhm.
wrong.
I think that's
Um,
correct. That sounds about right.
yeah, yeah. Also, probably the second biggest name in this lineup for me personally is Joel Emsley. He is the
Oh.
director of all artwork. He's the art director for the entire studio. If you don't know who Joel Emsley is, Joel Emsley was the guy who created the character Ghost. Not only did he create Ghost, he did it in 2 fucking hours because they needed something to put into the game. And that, like, if it's not Price, it's Ghost for like the poster boy of Modern Warfare, of maybe even Call of Duty overall. Like maybe him and like Frank Woods. But
Mm.
yeah, so Joel Emsley, he was the art director for Modern Warfare 2019. I think he was off Modern Warfare 2. He may have come back for 3. I'm not sure. He was also the art director for Respawn when they made Titanfall 1 and 2. So like Joel Emsley and Mark Grigsby being at the at essentially being management at this point, like that gives me a lot of confidence. And
Yeah.
I'm speaking very, very enthusiastically because these guys have pretty much never had a dud in their respective fields. So I'm really, like, I'm getting myself excited just by talking about it.
Mhm.
So a lot of the old guard is still there, which I think is a huge plus. Um, uh, I'm going to let you talk for a little bit because I'm not even halfway through my notes, and I
Mhm.
can keep going. So, Anthony, what did you think upon first reaction of seeing the trailer for the first time?
So seeing the trailer, I didn't have too much in the way of general expectations, I guess. It is kind of nice to see them moving back to, I guess, what we saw thematically with like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2019. Like the focuses as far as, what we were actually being shown were about the same. Like,
Hmm.
as far as like how everything was presented and what we were actually looking at. Um my overall feel, I'm tempted to get excited again. You know how me that's difficult for
Yeah,
me.
no, I can't help myself with Modern Warfare, especially when they
Yeah.
market it in this way.
I am more interested in Modern Warfare 4 than I was Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3.
Interesting.
The
Okay.
the
Why?
just something about, maybe it's just where we are right now, where it's been a while again since a good Call of Duty gripped us both. Maybe
Fair
that's
enough.
why. I don't know, it's just something about it seems, in the way that everything moves and the way that everything's presented. Maybe it's because I've seen too much since the reveal trailer as far as like gameplay movement and stuff like that. It just
Okay.
seems a bit more appealing. I'm not quite at the same levels as like the original Modern Warfare 2 or, Modern Warfare 2019 when we were both very excited about it. But my interest is peaked. Maybe it's just, but I just can't say for certain whether it's because it's been so long since a Call of Duty has been interesting remotely at all, you know? So,
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
yeah.
Um, so that actually leads into what I was going to say next perfectly.
Mhm.
I've been doing plenty of digging on my end because I'm such a big fan of the sub-series in general. Um, Activision and Infinity Ward, they held a like a play test first reveal type of thing for a bunch of content creators,
Mhm.
journalists, blah blah blah. According to the people that have actually had hands-on time with it, they got about like 3 to 4 hours of gameplay, I think.
Mhm.
Um, they are saying that the movement itself feels like somewhere in between Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 3. Infinity Ward got a lot of hate for the movement system in Modern Warfare 2,
Yeah.
um, for a variety of reasons, but Modern Warfare 2019, way more conservative, a lot slower, way more tactical, which I really, really, really enjoy.
Mhm.
Modern Warfare 3 was, I would say, faster by like a factor of 1.5, maybe like 1.8,
Okay.
to the point where like the slide canceling, like jump, like bunny hopping, all that shit was a little bit too prevalent for me.
Mhm.
Um, so them choosing to have like a middle ground between Modern Warfare 19 and Modern Warfare 3 good overall choice. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to know for sure until I get my hands on it. But they have been putting out a video series over the past 3 days called "From the Ward," which is just like the behind the scenes making of Modern Warfare 4, and
Okay.
they interview all the developers and blah blah blah. The one thing that they really seem to emphasize, like time and time again, is the animation system. And as you know, in Modern Warfare 19, the animation system was so slick that in Modern Warfare 2 they put in a third person mode. Um,
Yes.
and like now in Modern Warfare 4, they are allowing you to chain together all these animations so it's very, very smooth and very like satisfying to play. And that could go either way depending on how people abuse it, because make no mistake, people will absolutely abuse it.
Yeah.
But to me, on paper, at least for right now, before I've actually seen like any like long form type of gameplay, it sounds good, but we'll see what happens. Because, I mean, Call of Duty is, if they can only iterate so much from title to title. Movement is a big one. The different sub-series have very different ways of playing. Like I said, Modern Warfare 19 was very slow, very deliberate, very tactical. 2 and 3 got a lot faster, a lot more twitchy, and a lot of like OG fans, you and I included, were really not about that. So we'll see. We'll see how it looks, or yeah, how it plays once we actually get our hands on it. So I'm kind of just I'm combing through my notes here because I have like just as much written as I did for Destiny. According to the closed event, Infinity Wars seemed to. Oh yeah, there's a movement tech. I already went over that. The how real the trailer looked, that was another thing, and I even went out of my way on my notes app to say that Black Ops 7 looked like garbage. So let's see. Oh, a big one was so like they're promoting the game, like they're in full marketing mode now. We're seeing the different editions you can pre-order. It's really just right now the standard and the Vault edition.
Yeah.
And the skins and the cosmetics, they definitely look good, right? They look like very, very special ops, very grounded, relatively speaking, for the Call of Duty universe. And Infinity Ward has gone out of their way to say that they are quote unquote committed to making sure that everything looks and feels grounded, like cosmetically.
Yeah.
But honestly, we'll see how long that fucking lasts, because we literally have Beavis and Butthead running around in Call of Duty right now. Like I don't know. I just don't trust you. I just don't trust you.
Yeah.
And that hurts because I really like a lot of the developers that are working in Infinity Ward right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. Anything that you want to chime in on? Before I just keep on steamrolling through this.
My stuff is a bit more scattershot. I was going to comment the same way that you did on the cosmetics, how they want to use this, or they imply they want to use this as like a way to kind of reground everything after the build up that's been going on for a while. I saw a bit about the gameplay and the movement, and it looks like they're implementing something that I was basically expecting, where in some of the previous games where it's just like, you'll be able to climb the pipes on the walls and do mantles
Yeah, I was
and
gonna bring
shimmy
that up.
around.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that can be good, but at the same time, if the game is a little too fast, people are going to be running and jumping and none of this stuff is going to matter because you're going to be stuck in these animations. So I'm interested in to see how those play out in actual matches. I heard rumors that like hip fire accuracy is going to be jacked all the way up to the point where it's like you don't need to aim
they're
down your
removing
sights all the
bloom.
time.
They're
Yeah, okay.
removing bloom totally.
Okay.
So we'll see how that plays.
I'm gonna be honest. I like that as something to try and attempt to change. I like that. I don't hate
agree.
that.
Yeah. Well, because like the whole bloom thing, you would lose certain gunfights and you just felt like you shouldn't have. Like it just felt like the game cheated you. Which is probably the biggest proponent for the removal of bloom. So we'll see how it plays. Like I'm really hoping that we don't have like snipers that are basically fucking shotguns. But
yeah, there should be some leeway. My whole thing is like, obviously there's been this one of the major fights of many in in Call of Duty is like people arguing about the movement and what's skill and what isn't and all this kind of stuff. And there's been like this kind of ongoing fight for the last 6 years or so where like there's like, the real skill in Call of Duty is running, sprinting, jumping, aiming down sight and killing a guy, or 360 and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I just want like a fun game, and I
Well,
don't
yeah.
mind. I don't mind if there are people out there who are just cracked out of their minds trying to stress the game, but like we can't like feed into that. It kind of reminds me of when Battlefield 6 was coming out, and everyone's just like, "Oh, what? I can't bunny hop across the entire fucking map
Yeah.
anymore. The game's busted." It's like it's so sickening to me. Like I want Call of Duty to like be able to experiment with like movement mechanics that aren't just running, jumping, aiming down sight, and like everybody's worried about whether or not there's an accuracy and movement debuff when you land after jumping, right? So I'm interested in like the mantling and climbing of stuff, because that's stuff I've been basically excited for and expecting since we were playing the original Call of Duties way back when. I'm like, oh, you know, I would always hear the two things I would always hear about are rumors about destructible environments and climbable environments, and one of them was obviously more of a pie in the sky hope than anything else. But I was always interested in movement mechanics, but it just can't. It needs to be level enough where Call of Duty's breakneck audience doesn't fucking snap it in two, you know, because every Call of Duty game there's an argument online where it's just like, no, it's all Call of Duty's always been about this snap jump shots and all that kind of stuff, and I just have to say,
absolutely has
it was never really about that. There were moments where like when you were pushed and the adrenaline was pumping, you would move like a madman, like an animal, but it wasn't what the game was about. And I just have to say again, it's bullshit, because a lot of this is people a little older than us to like 10 years younger than us who will be like doing it like, oh, you know, you got to be able to jump and run and do all this kind of stuff, who will never in a million years go back and touch like Quake or any of that stuff, which is you know, I saw someone say like, oh, Call of Duty's built around the movement strats. I'm like, no, there are games built around the movement strats. They're called Quake and Unreal Tournament, which you will never touch because you'll get fucking trounced by whoever's still playing that game, you know. But,
yeah, because they've just been stuck in the fucking hyperbaric time chamber for like 30 years.
I listen. I like Quake. I like Half-Life Deathmatch. I like all the old ones. You know, Counter-Strike doesn't really fall into that movement category, but you know what I mean. I guess this is all to say is I've seen a little bit of the gameplay, and I'm interested with the potential in them. I'm just not. I got to see more follow through. I got to see some raw gameplay. Maybe get into a beta or something. And I do like some of the changes that they implemented to create a class, where like your operator is tied to the create a class. Yeah, I saw some brief stuff with create a class where it's like it's very straightforward, and you know there's nothing too crazy going on there, and also your operator and kill streaks are tied to your classes now. I always thought that was a neat thing. So it's just small tweaks like that. I like it when Call of Duty tries to experiment a little bit, which is obviously just not in their wheelhouse, but you know, is what it is.
Yeah. So I mean, look, that's just the type of person that you are. I allow myself to get pretty excited for things. You have been a skeptic for a very long time. I mean, rightfully so. But that's just the two different camps that you and I are in. Okay, so actually, a lot of my notes were relatively redundant, so I think I only have like one more thing to talk about as far as Modern Warfare 4 goes, and then we can move on. And that thing, my friend, is DMZ is finally coming back.
Yeah, look at that.
After all the leaks and all the rumors and all the speculation, we officially got confirmation from Activision and Infinity Ward themselves that DMZ is making a comeback. Now, I do have to say, I do not think that this would have stood a snowball's chance in hell if it wasn't for Arc Raiders. Now, maybe it was the plan all along. Maybe. And you know what? If it was, I apologize. But I think that Arc Raiders showed the entire gaming audience that you can have an extraction shooter that is for normal people. And it's still enjoyable to play. Like, yeah, you're going to have the occasional match where it goes south and you get pissed off, but the vast majority of the time, in my 100 hours playing Arc Raiders, I really enjoyed it. I'm still waiting for them to like really add that carrot on the end of the stick that I can keep on playing. But I think that's a big part of why DMZ is coming back. Now, that being said, everyone who played DMZ in Modern Warfare 2, at least consistently, who enjoyed it, they really enjoyed it. I loved DMZ in Modern Warfare 2. It was a really, really good time. It had a ton of potential. And we actually jumped in a week or two ago just to try it out.
Yeah.
and I forgot how much shit there was in it. Like,
Yeah.
it has a ton of potential, and I'm very, very, very curious to see how they handle it because at the end of the day, Call of Duty ultimately it's on the more casual side of things for a first person shooter. Like
Mhm.
it is geared towards a casual audience. Like yeah, you'll have the hardcore people and that's fine, but COD is so big at this point that they are more or less forced to market themselves towards a casual audience. And I think that does extend to DMZ.
Mhm.
We pretty much have like no information on it aside from the fact that if you get the Vault Edition for Modern Warfare 4, it comes with a DMZ deployment bonus, whatever that means. But beyond that, it's still a pretty big mystery. They are set to hold a reveal event on, I think, 1 week from today or on the 6th. I think it might be June 6th. They are holding a reveal event for DMZ. So I'm very, very, very interested to see what they have cooking right now. DMZ from Modern Warfare 2 still technically in beta. I mean, I guess they were testing the waters, but this is supposedly going to be launching as a 1.0 release. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that, like, how for historically Modern Warfare has had the Spec Ops mode, Black Ops has had zombies, and then whatever it is that like Sledgehammer ends up working on is some whatever third mode. I mean, sometimes they've done zombies, sometimes they just did like survival mode. I don't think that they ever did like a Spec Ops mode where they had like a collection of like very tightly curated missions in the
Mhm.
same vein as Modern Warfare. I could be wrong, but I just don't remember anything like that.
Okay.
I think that DMZ could, that could be the third mode for the Modern Warfare sub
Yeah.
franchise, um,
At
and it
least
would
at
fit.
least while all the craze is going on, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So, anywho, yeah, Modern Warfare 4 has officially been revealed, and we did get a bunch of info that we just went over. I am pretty excited for it. I won't
Okay.
lie. I'm probably at like a 7.5 to 8. I'm not
Okay.
quite at like the full, like all aboard the hype train, choo choo level yet. Um, Depending on what I see in the future, that might change. But I just fucking love Modern Warfare. I can't help it. Um, Oh boy! And with that out of the way, we can move on to the next news
There you
story.
go. There you go.
My friend, I'm handing you the mic. My voice is tired.
That's perfectly fine. So last week we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Microsoft is introducing a couple new leadership changes, or they
Oh
they
boy.
had, I should say. The first up is Matthew Ball, who joined middle of this month, middle of May, and he is the Xbox Chief Strategy Officer. Dan, do you
Okay.
know who this guy is? Have you heard his name before?
What was the name again?
Matthew Ball.
I heard Matt Booty. I don't know who Matt Ball is.
Matthew Ball is the guy that we talked about a couple months ago, where he basically said that games are in a bad spot because they have to compete with porn and cryptocurrency and gambling and all that shit. He's the
Oh
same. He's
yeah,
the same guy that made
that's
that
right.
statement. Yes, he's been in the industry for a long time. He does a lot with venture capital. I think he was, where the hell was he? He was doing something to involved with the metaverse. He was with Amazon for a while. He was with
Oh,
a
that's
bunch
a
of different. He's a
great
real
track record.
monies and analysis guy. He's not really
Mm.
a gaming guy, you know. Now he one thing he's been consistent about for the last couple of years is that he's been wary about the direction that traditional consoles were going. He's one of the guys that's always been saying like consoles need to do more and be different in order to actually compete with PC gaming. So that's like a step in the right direction, I would say. Um,
Hmm.
now that he's at Xbox, obviously we're going to see exactly what he does. But what he says he's going to do is focus on high level strategy that revives console growth in some way, shape, or form, and also wants to
That
focus
just
on
sounds icky.
and he also wants to strengthen first party franchises, which I get. It all makes sense, but again, all these guys are just really saying, the what everybody wants to hear, which is like, yeah, we get it. Consoles are important, exclusives are important. I mainly just touched on this guy just because I find it funny because it is the guy who said like they're competing with porn,
Yeah.
and basically all I have to say is like to all these different guys saying like, oh, we want to strengthen this as much as possible. We want to stand out. Raise some of the restrictions. When we were talking about that writing question, I mentioned that Microsoft has this whole back end website. We can look at all their different policies and whatnot. A lot of them are cripplingly restrictive on creativity. Like there's actually
Oh,
there's one. Dan, there's a whole page dedicated to talking about why you shouldn't have curvy or appealing women in your video
what?
games. Yeah, I
Fuck
shit you not.
off.
I reported on this for a news hole like a year ago, I think, or something like that, where there is on their page, they updated it where they specifically, like, they have pages, like, individual pages about different beauty standards in their characters, and they have a page like that for fucking everything. It's ridiculous. So yeah, what I would say is if you're concerned about strengthening your franchises, maybe remove some of the restrictions under your growing umbrella that you just seem to be growing. The other guy that what's his name, Scott Valet or something like that. He's
Sounds
apparently,
relatively familiar.
yeah, he's been with Microsoft for a while. He was more on the Azure side, so he was doing more with the cloud and infrastructure with AI and stuff like that. He likes to see he's I don't know if it's true or not, but unlike the other guy who's just like the money guy, this guy he's coming in and saying like, oh, lifelong gamer, been with Xbox since day one. He's excited to quote combine his platform building experience with gaming, and his mandate is to integrate Azure and AI cloud capabilities into the Xbox hardware. So we'll see how that
Oh,
fucking goes.
great.
So
Just what
he's
I
another
want in every single game that ever runs on any piece of hardware that
yeah
I could ever own.
he's an infrastructure pusher kind of guy. So we'll see where that fucking goes. But yeah, so Xbox has a few new people up there with Booty and Jarma. And
Okay.
that's just a small thing that we missed last week.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, things are in a great state of flux with Xbox and
Yeah.
Microsoft overall.
We'll see if it
So it's
amounts to
going to
anything.
be interesting to see where it goes because the industry overall just can't afford to not have Xbox in the game.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't really know how else to put it. Um, yeah. So, all right. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Um, Probably do a small thing.
Yeah, it was some small
Um,
shit.
all right, so Space Marine 2 is getting another playable class for year 3. I mentioned this like a month ago or something like that, where Saber is extending support for the game an entire year because it was just so successful. And they're actively developing Space Marine 3, but like in the meantime, they still want to give the community something to do. So they extended the support for Space Marine 2 into the next year, and we got confirmation yesterday or the day before that we are getting another class. We don't know what it is, but we are getting another class. So I'm pumped for that. I love Space Marine 2. It is such a good time. So that's happening. We got yet another Exodus gameplay teaser, and that was for, was it like an open? No, it was like a little cutscene, but it
Mm.
showed the different branching dialogue options and like how the game will react to what you choose. Like it's very Mass Effect-y, shocker, where you'll read the prompt in the option wheel, you'll select it, but your character doesn't say that line verbatim. He says the general gist of what that sentence said in the dialogue wheel, I love that. And I keep on saying it every single time that I post an Exodus trailer or teaser rather. Every single time I see a new teaser for this game, it looks better than the one that came before it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely been. I wouldn't say improving might be the wrong word because I don't want to say it looked bad to begin with, but it has been growing and
yeah,
it was coming into its own, I guess.
yeah. I'm very excited to see more. Like I will tell you my excitement level of like the game to be released uh, overall after the Summer Games event or Summer Game Show because that's when
Yeah.
they're going to be revealing the extended gameplay.
Mhm.
But right now, everything that I'm seeing, I'm liking, so that's cool. Last bit of small news I'll hit you with before we move on is the Pragmata director. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but it's just on the docket here. He said that they would love to do something else in the Pragmata world for a new game. So
Yeah.
that's cool. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
Pragmata.
yeah, that aligns with what I said like a couple weeks ago, where like somebody up the chain mentioned is like, oh, we could see we could see Pragmata as like a potential series going forward,
Yeah,
or
don't
getting
do
new
that.
sequels.
But
Well, Dan, that's not how it works around here. Especially with something I think we never got around to mentioning is Capcom mentioned, their profits have been soaring consistently year
oh
over
yeah, that's
year.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's just literally been going up and up for Capcom. They've been making a lot of good decisions lately.
as
Um,
far I would say it's less good decisions overall, just they've been making profitable
I was gonna
ventures, I
rephrase
guess.
that too because I knew you were gonna jump on that.
Yeah, listen, as the resident, I've actually somebody we both know has in the past called me a Capcom fanboy. I need to reiterate, I'm not a Capcom fanboy. I happen to like most of the IPs they are attached to, however.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't know. They've been making consumable decisions, I guess we could say.
Right.
And I think a lot of the things that they're doing has like a breaking point one way or another. It's not perfect, but it's not the worst thing ever. One thing I always like to compliment Capcom on is that there are certain aspects of their business where they don't really. If everybody else is jumping, if everybody else in the industry is doing something pants on head retarded, they only like dip a toe into it, or they ease their way into it. They don't jump on board with everything, So they make
Hmm.
a lot of stupid fucking decisions, but at a cadence that is not enough to immediately crash them or put them in the same boat as everybody else making similar bad decisions, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So that was a handful of small things. Anthony, as much as I am lamenting what's coming next,
Ah,
why don't you why don't you give me a update on the state of the fighting game community?
So I swear to God, it's not going to be anything drastic. It's just a couple things happened recently, as far as
Okay.
nothing major, nothing crazy, but enough where it's worth updating. So they had a
Okay.
recent tournament. They had the Combo Breaker, which is one of the super majors that goes on. One
A
of those
great
that
name for a tournament.
yeah, listen. One thing I will say is because of the nature of a lot of the fighting game stuff, from like how they're still desperately holding on to what is still a relatively young community, 20, 30 years, with a little bit, maybe close to, yeah, 20, 30 years is pretty accurate, I would say, when it really started, becoming a global community or was
Hmm.
pushing that way. But they have a lot of clever things from that era that still linger, and the name of the tournament, regardless of what happens inside of it, is Combo Breaker is a good name. Um, so I was bracing myself. I'm like, what nonsense are we gonna hear? Are we gonna hear? Are there gonna be more orgies? Is there
Oh
gonna be
God.
some kind of degeneracy? Are we gonna start spiking the water at this event? Like I was wondering what was gonna happen, and it was just a general drop in player etiquette. People still smell like shit. They apparently trashed the hotel that it was like held at, which is normally shit you expect from
Oh, that's
like
nice.
all those weird online conventions that are notorious, but like it's just everyone smelled like shit. They were posting different videos of the room, and like one guy that was working at the hotel that everything was at, it's just like there's alcohol bottles everywhere, condom wrappers and stains
Oh
on bed
God.
sheets, fucking, every room that a fighting game player was in, or just about every of them, or the ones where they were getting together, required extensive cleanup and stuff like that.
Ugh.
Trash was everywhere. And
Disgusting.
it's just a general, like, here's the thing, it's like I get it, people get rowdy at these events, but it's just like the etiquette is decreasing in a notable manner.
Yeah, but
it's
rowdy
it,
and sloppy are two different things.
yeah, and here's the thing, like I've been to a few of these tournaments where people go, like I've been to tournaments where I had to stay at hotels for like the weekend or whatever, right? These events have been going on for a long fucking time. Like this was not the norm, I think I said to you once, I'm like, this used to be like people would make fun of things they don't understand just because that's how bullying and hazing and shit like that happened. It's just like if you were into something that more normal people weren't into, you just got made fun of regardless of how baseless it was. Like the goal was not to lean into that as time passed, and as things got more acceptable. But that appears to be what's going on there. Yeah. So a lot of just complete drop in etiquette again. It's not quite as spicy as full-blown orgies and people getting drugged and sexual harassment, but this latest, one of the biggest tournaments ever, they trashed the fucking place. And apparently day one there were noise complaints all over the place because people were just getting too rowdy. Apparently there was an incident where somebody was having relations in a very loud floor spanning noise pollution way. So it's whatever, but like during the fallout of all this, there were obviously some game announcements. Primarily the two I'm going to focus on are with Street Fighter and Tekken, just because those are, I would say, the two biggest, but it's really just Street Fighter, and then Tekken has kind of fallen off a ways. They recently got announcements and new content. Tekken is introducing a guest character from one of the biggest manga and anime series in the martial arts space ever. You've definitely never heard of it, I don't think. It's called Baki the Grappler. I'm assuming you've never heard of it.
Nope.
That's perfectly fine. I'm not even that big into it. It's an older one that's been running for a long time. That is, it's very, very popular. It's more well known overseas. Long-running martial arts manga. One of the main characters is going to be entering Tekken, and there was a lot of debate over that. At the same time, it added a returning character who people are split on because she's been very strong in the last couple of appearances, Tekken 7 especially. And basically, the fighting game community was they're still trashing Tekken because it's still not in a great place. I think it's gotten a little bit better over time, but it's, people are trashing it. And then at the same time, you go over to Street Fighter, and Street Fighter introduced a character I kind of touched on a little bit earlier called Ingrid. Now, Ingrid's whole thing is like she's kind of a play on like the Japanese magical girl trope or whatever. The reason I mention this is because for as long as I've known about this character, from the moment she was shown off, the fighting game community like hated her for some reason, in a way that like I've been listening to the stories for the last 20 years. I was there when the hate really kicked off. I have no idea why. It's one of those things where the fighting game community has this tendency to, like, one guy will stand up and say, I don't like this, or this is a problem, and then like everybody will agree with this person for no reason. And so this character comes out, and the fighting game community is trying to make it a big deal, where like she's just, well, again, I can't even say it's not controversial. They just don't like her for whatever reason, and it's never been explicitly stated to me why they don't like her. But they they figure, oh, it's a fighting game community thing, so we'll try to bring it back up again. So there's a lot of controversies about that online and whatnot. And the reason I bring both of these instances up, Dan, is because while this is going on, while the fighting game community is trying to make a big deal out of nothing, or trying to exaggerate the issues, the player numbers for both games shot up. Street Fighter 6 actually broke its highest peak ever, and it's on consoles and on PC. Tekken has retained, or has continued to retain, a healthy player base since it started implementing changes last year. And I want this to be kind of like a sobering check to the fighting game community, or the people who make that their whole personality, is that you ultimately do not matter. You are nothing but a you're just a revenue source and a pretty picture for the companies involved to kind of glance at occasionally, is basically what this is all it goes to show. Is because a lot of these people, the fighting game people, it's like, I think I said it to you once, where it's like it is a community that is one of the most affected by all of the annoying social and cultural trends of the last 15 years. Nice. I would say it is the fighting game community, if not at the top, it is right below speedrunners, because speedrunning communities have gotten that pretty bad. Hero shooters are pretty bad. All these different communities, like I kind of touched on when we were talking at the beginning, like, oh, the kind of ones that, say like, oh, I've been here forever and you don't belong, but I belong. And also things need to change around here in this community where you never belonged in, but even though I just got here, we got to change everything for me. And it's a sobering reminder that, like, no matter what you think, all the problems that you like to ignore and all this other stuff that goes on in the fighting game community, you are an entity that's only really being tolerated. You're not at the forefront anymore. It used to be sometime in the 2010s and maybe a little before that, where it's just like, the community meant something. It was a group of people around a shared passion, a shared craft. People like playing these fighting games and whatnot. And now it's kind of laughable and actually a detriment. But because of the the rampant growth that everybody wanted, you're no longer unified, and you no longer matter, despite growing rampantly over the last 10 years. So basically, Dan, all this was to say is that where there was once a small-ish community of people who liked fighting games, it is now just a amorphous blob of bad people who think they matter when they actually don't matter. I don't know. It's kind of disheartening and sad to see, but it was on full display this week in fighting games, just between the actual people that showed up, destroying the venue they were at, while all the complaints they had were ignored as the player counts just kept going up. So I don't know. It's just kind of a mess.
Sounds like a fucking mess.
It is a mess.
Yeah. Yikes. Well, so as you were talking, something did come across my desk that I think raised my eyebrow, actually. It has to do with Arc Raiders.
Okay.
So apparently, this is coming from a Twitter account called Arc Raiders Alerts, right? So they're one of like the news accounts that follow the game, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to read this verbatim. It's not too long. PvE mode is coming to Arc Raiders, but only in China as of now. The Chinese version of Arc Raiders is getting a new map condition called Rebellion Incident. It's a low difficulty, high resource mode where everyone spawns as a friendly. You can't hurt each other at first, but players can choose to go rogue and rebel. This lets you kill anyone, but you'll be marked with a red light. So very dark zone. Finally, there's a wild map condition that will most likely spawn both a queen and a matriarch in the exact same match. Interesting, very interesting. Definitely a step in not necessarily the right direction, but it's a step in an interesting direction. I mean, there have been countless Arc Raiders matches where like I loaded and I just want to go around and kill the Arcs. So, I mean, it's just in China for right now. So if it does make it into the game globally, I'll definitely re-download it and try it out. All right, so for the rest of the small stuff, I don't know anything about these Embracer Studio changes, so I'm going to let you talk about that. But before you do, we got a new trailer for Warhammer 40K Dawn of War 4. Basically just detailing like all the post-launch content and everything, and looking pretty good. Not only that, but I don't remember which studio said it, if it was either Creative Assembly or the guys that are doing So Creative Assembly is doing Total War Warhammer 40K. A different studio is doing Dawn of War 4.
Yeah.
So the two different entities.
It's easy to get the two mixed up with the ending suffix of Dawn of War, but you know.
Yeah. So I don't remember which one said it, but one of them said that they were not worried about the other game, like, because they're both RTSs, so they're both occupying the exact same genre in the same universe, but they're not worried about each other. And you know what? For as vast as Warhammer is, especially Warhammer 40K, and especially right now, it's been the most popular it's ever been. I would agree with that. I think that Warhammer fans overall, myself included, would be happy to have an excuse to play a different type of Warhammer RTS game. I don't know if it's going to hurt sales or not. It really depends on the release dates on both of them. I don't have that information in front of me, but I don't even think that one of them has a release date yet. Dawn of War 4 release date. Let's see. So Dawn of War 4 is slated for September 17th. So that's right around the corner. So Total War Warhammer 40K does not have a release date. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, Total War could be a year away. We have no idea. Yeah. So just by that regard, you know, both games being out at the same time, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think Warhammer fans would be more than happy to play both of them. And also, Dawn of War 4 is only on PC as of now. I'm pretty sure Total War is supposed to be on everything. I mean, the decision is kind of made for you at a certain point.
I guess so.
Another smallish thing that will end up turning into a big thing, in my opinion, is the Steam hardware pricing.
Yeah.
Steam or Valve, more accurately, they are doing a price hike of almost up to 50%, which is wild.
Yeah. Is it like $300 on both? I can't remember.
Yeah, so the OLED version of the Steam Deck is going to be like $950, right? Mm-hmm. So you would have to really be in the market for a handheld
Yeah.
PC to want to drop that kind of money on that. Like I just bought a new laptop about 2 weeks ago. At this point, it was
Mhm.
$2,000, and it was $1,000 off because it was last year's model, but it was still $2,000.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm perfectly happy with the purchase because it's a full laptop. Like, I bring it with me almost everywhere. I can set it up and use it anywhere. It was the value proposition for the parts that came with it were very, very good. Almost well, with taxes, it's going to be over $1,000 for the OLED version of the Steam Deck, and that was for like the 1 terabyte model, I think.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, that's a tough sell to anybody. So yeah, everyone's feeling these price hikes. Even good old Valve, who could do nothing
Yeah.
and still win.
I mean,
Um,
we've mentioned on the various Valve topics or Steam topics that we've talked in the past, where it's just like, Valve is like it was implied that Valve was feeling the squeeze of what's going on right now with hardware pricing and hardware
mm,
availability, and it was just this is a black eye for them in a way that they don't normally get from extreme circumstances.
right.
And I also saw a few people like arguing, because people love to argue from sides where it's just like, but when can you believe how good Nintendo is? They only raised the price on the Switch $50, and they gave us a month in advance. I'm just like, this is not really comparable. Primarily because like the Steam Deck and handheld PCs of that nature are still,
Yeah, it's a
I would
very
consider
different
them,
animal.
yeah, I would consider them novelty items. Honestly, it's
Yeah, I would
borderline
totally agree
novelty
with you.
items.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Like, especially the Steam Deck and like all
yeah,
these portable PCs, 100% novelty items. Um, I don't think that mobile gaming is as big as it was with like, you remember the old Game Boys and shit and the
yeah,
Nintendo DSs and all that stuff. Like those were
yeah,
huge back
yeah,
in the day.
absolutely.
I don't know one person personally. Well, no, that's a lie. I know one person personally that has a Steam Deck. I don't know anybody else that's got one. And
I
you and I, we hang out in our circles, right? Like
Yeah,
everyone's relatively into the very similar shit.
yeah.
What are you
I
gonna say?
knew I knew two people that had Steam Decks. I mean, I think I don't check everybody's itinerary to see who has what, and sometimes it all blurs together. But the one thing I'll note is like when it comes to the Steam Decks, like I very rarely heard people talk about like playing them. Like a lot of them just really talked about like, oh, look what I can run on this, look what I can do with this. And like I think one guy took a trip once and mentioned he was loading up his Steam Deck, and it's like it came into play. But I'm just like, over the course of how
Right.
many years of the Steam Deck being on the
Yeah.
market, like that's why I say it's like not a bad purchase by any means. It's a quality product. I'm just saying it's novel.
Yeah, the
It's
use case
yeah,
is so niche for something like that
yeah,
that it's a very difficult sell to any uh, normie, for lack of a better term.
yeah.
So, anywho, so what's going on with these Embracer studio changes?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, I mean, we've talked about Embracer on and off, but like I would say for the last 3, maybe 4 years, I forget exactly when it happened, but there was like they were kind of banking on an investment from the Saudis, which never came, and ever since then they've been aside from the fact that they've acquired studios, closed studios, had to sell off studios, all these different things, and spinning off all which way. Bottom line is they had a lot of debt, and basically it all kind of came to a head with a new restructuring where they're spinning off, what was it called? It's Fellowship Entertainment. Does that ring any bells to
Yes,
you? Yes.
yes, yes.
So it's two separate entities. One of them is Fellowship Entertainment, which is going to be focusing on all of its major IPs. So like things like Lord of the Rings, Tomb Raider, Metro, Dead Island, Darksiders, Remnant. That's where
Oh,
all of
Remnants in there?
yeah, Remnants in there too. And it's just like all of the different brands and companies they own are going to be spun off into that. And then the core Embracer group is going to, focus on entrepreneurial stuff, and, stuff that's more like, I guess, decentralized, I guess would be the way to put it. That's where you get
Okay.
like the THQ Nordic stuff, Asper, Vertigo Games, Limited. I think Limited Run is under them too, isn't it? Do they own Limited Run? I could have sworn they
I
did.
don't know.
Yeah, I think I
Let's find
think
out.
I think they do, and I think Limited Runs is going to be in that like core group.
Yep, Embracer owns
Okay.
Limited Run.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I think it came up when we were talking about their quality, however many episodes ago. It might have come up there. And basically, all this means is like the way they describe it is like, oh, you know, the core Grace Embracer group is going to be leaner and able to make moves, and you know, we don't have to worry about focus. We can focus a bit more on, you know, cost control and, you know, moving money the right way and all that kind of stuff. And you know, I guess their expectation is with this split, it should make it easier to manage the money so that they don't have to do more layoffs and don't have to do stuff. It's just, I think it was kind of, you know, they bought in, they tried to become a major conglomerate, and I think they were really banking on external investors based on the properties that they own. And
Hmm.
I do think a lot of the things that they had to offer from their the different games over the last couple of years have fallen flat. I'm pretty sure they were in charge of Alone in the Dark, that reboot, and that fucking sucked. Uh, Tomb Raider isn't as powerful as a brand as it used to be. Dead Island is like dead in the fucking water.
Dead Island was stuck in development hell for years.
Yeah, that's an IP that never really made it out of that seventh generation.
Yeah.
It had a promising start too, which surprises me that like it's just the
The
development never
Dying
went
Light
anywhere.
like kind of ate its lunch.
Yeah, yeah. And then the whole zombie craze kind of ended. It peaked for a while there.
Mm,
And Darksiders is another one
finally.
which really
Give me
just got
dinosaurs.
fucking. You're never getting those fucking dinosaurs, man.
Hey, Turok is coming out.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that's really all there is to say about Embracer. It's interesting to touch on just because they are one of the big conglomerate groups. You know, not too many people buy up all these different companies. They were one of them. So that's what's going on with them.
All right. Cool. So let's see what else we got. That was all the small stuff. So that's done.
Cool.
The last thing that we have on the docket is something to do with Stop Killing Games. I actually heard something about this past week, but I'm not nearly as intimately familiar with it as you are. So I honestly figured you were just going to educate me. So why don't you learn me, Anthony?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna. It's more or less an update, but it's been so long that we talked about it, and there's some other things going on there. The stuff going on in the EU legislature. I think the initiative is officially titled "Stop Destroying Video Games" now, or something like that.
Okay.
And there's the public hearing went through. It seemed to go very, very well with a lot of the people there actually siding with the movement. Things are looking very good as far as that goes. The official response isn't due until the end of July, so July
Okay.
27th, maybe around there. Maybe a little earlier. We'll have more to say about it. And they, at the same time, they also formed an NGO for further lobbying with or without the
Oh, gotta
things
love
falling down in their
NGOs.
favor. Yeah, at the end, it's all a bunch of bullshit, but they're making moves over there, basically.
Okay.
In the meantime, over here in the stateside, they recently, California of all places, they had a Stop Killing Games backed bill go through. I think it's called Protect Our Games Act is what it's called. It passed like 43-6 landslide, very easy. And the bill, if it goes through all the way, it would force publishers to provide an offline or playable version of the game or offer full refunds when shutting down servers. So we're going to see what happens when it hits the Senate and how exactly, this is just California. Where does that go? Is it really just is it going to go anywhere? Is it just going to stick to California and the businesses that run there? We'll see what happens. And the feedback from this, obviously, a lot of the publishers and their advocates are basically, up in arms about this because they're making more ground than they anticipated, and this is very bad for their. I don't even want to say bottom line, because ultimately the tools or expectations when you bake the stuff in, it's not really going to be as as extensive, and ultimately. I do think that they're again, and I say again, just even though it's been a while since we talked about it, they're really just concerned about control over what you own after you buy it.
Yeah.
It's like because at the end of the day, let's say a company makes an MMO or whatever, and it goes down. A lot of players understand. It's just like, oh, listen, if the company can't keep up the cost, it's whatever, you know. But then those same companies will go after private servers and people redistributing the code. And again, I understand to a limited degree protection over assets of that nature, but when it comes to letting people play their game where services are no longer available, it's just you need to let it happen. So it's a small little update on the Stop Killing Games.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I'm glad that it's getting traction or more traction.
Yeah, it's just it's I think I said this when we first talked about it. I'm like, it takes a while, you know, because once you get into the law process, it just drags
it comes
its
to a
feet.
agonizing, agonizing halt.
Yeah, it's we talk about deadlines like, oh, maybe we'll hear something before that. No, they're gonna drag it out to the last fucking second. Last fucking second. So
yeah. All right, cool. So I think that's about it, unless you have something else.
Outside of the slice of life stuff, I'm pretty much set.
Yeah, me too. I mean, a lot of Call of Duty stuff this week, a lot of Destiny stuff. I'm fucking dreading what might come out this next week regarding Destiny and Bungie.
Yeah.
I'm tired, Anthony. Oh boy. Yeah, so I guess we could just move on to Slice of Life.
All right, very good. So Dan, I introduced this last week and I led into it. So what do you got, buddy? Let me hear it.
So, it's Destiny related because I saw it. I was like, oh, this would be perfect for Slice of Life.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a Destiny. I wouldn't even call him a content creator. He's just like one of those people who keeps on shouting from the rooftop. He's a little insufferable, to be honest with you.
A lot of these people online are. Yeah. What are you gonna
do? So he's okay. As insufferable as he may be, and a lot of his takes online have been interesting, to say the least, but he holds he holds 5 world's first records for raids in Destiny 2. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. He's got because anytime you let's say, for example, I was on the team that beat the raid first in the world for the world's first raid race. Bungie sends you a belt that commemorates your accomplishment, right? It's not just like a leather belt, right? It's a giant, like what you would see in WWE or the UFC. It's a huge championship belt that is custom made for each member of the fire team with its own design, depending on whichever raid. It is the most exclusive thing that you can get in Destiny, full stop. Like, you know how I have the raid jackets for completing it within like 20. Yeah. So those are one of my most, those are some of my proudest like gaming memorabilia that I personally own. I love those jackets. Like, it was a lot to actually do the raid like within the time frame, and then you can only get the jacket once you beat the raid. You get the code, you could buy it from Bungie. The world's first raid race, you have to beat the raid. Obviously, you have to be the first in the world. Bungie has to verify it on their end, and then they send it to you. I think I'm 95% certain that the belt itself is free. Bungie just sends it to you if you manage to accomplish that. Okay. So with all that context, this guy's name online is Saltagrepo, and he posted this on May 23rd. I think it was either the next day or like the next hour after we learned that that Bungie was pulling the plug on Destiny. His post, it reads, "Strange timing to post this with the recent Destiny news, but it's finally here." And he posts a picture of himself holding all 5 raid belts. like, shut the fuck up, you asshole. It was just such like an out-of-pocket thing to do, especially after the revelation that the entire community got of the game is effectively dying, and he's like, "Hey guys, look at all my raid belts." It's like, you idiots. I thought that was fucking perfect for this segment. So that is my slice of life. Yeah, I was like, oh god. So that's my little slice of life there for you.
All right. Mine is a little bit more formal, but
Okay.
it's less like that. I actually didn't get a chance to post this, but Valnet. Remember we talked about Valnet a couple weeks ago. The other guys, they were
No.
founded by the Brazzers guys. They have
Oh.
they basically own a huge chunk of gaming sites. Like they bought out Game Rant, Dual Shockers, Polygon.
Right.
They
Yes.
opened up the Gamer and all that stuff. Well, this massive conglomerate decided that they were going to introduce pay per session compensation on their websites now. So
I wish you could see the face that I'm making right now.
yeah, so all these article writers, they're gonna need they're basically the gun is to their head now. They basically need to write something compelling or resort to clickbait in order to get paid from now on. So
Seems like a winning strategy.
yeah, and a lot of people are just like, this is a heartbreaking moment. I can't believe how
Well,
many
look, I
layoffs
actually
this is going to
think-
lead to.
I actually think that's like both positive and negative. Like
Yeah,
on one hand, it's negative that these journalists are essentially incentivized for making nothing but clickbait. On the other hand, they have to fucking write something now. They have to write
Yeah.
something that is not only engageable, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting or like substantial, like something of substance, I guess.
substantial. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good way. You can't no more opinion pieces about your favorite your favorite homosexual character in Dragon Age. You gotta write like actual news, please. I mean, here's the thing. You mentioned you mentioned the clickbait. I mentioned the clickbait. I mean, more often than not, this kind of stuff leads to clickbait.
Yeah.
But I have no sympathy. It's like you guys need like to feel some kind of squeeze because gaming journalism has been terrible for so
Yeah.
long.
So
But,
long, decades.
So to all the people out there calling it, exploitative or heartbreaking, all that kind of stuff, all I have to really say is like I don't know what to tell you. You're kind of like localizers where you don't really have goodwill in order to rally people behind your cause. I have no sympathy for you. So,
Yeah. It's a weird policy to have.
yeah, so-
But
yeah, that was
but
my
it might get
little
something
slice
done,
of-
which is like the flip side of
Yeah.
that coin.
Yeah, we'll see what
So-
happens. The squeeze continues on games journalists. So
Indeed. Well, I think that does it then. I
Yeah.
think we've reached the end.
Yeah.
So if you are still listening, thank you very much. Please keep the writing questions coming.
it makes Dan's
Anthony
day
and
every
I-
time.
Yeah. I mean, look, you
I'm a
like
fan
it too,
too.
right?
I'm a fan
yeah,
too,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but it does make my day. I love it that people listen and care enough to engage and ask us a question directly.
There you
On the incredibly likely chance that we get so many write-ins that we can't address all of them in one episode.
Yeah.
That was sarcasm there. I'm not that fucking conceited. We'll have to dedicate like an episode or something to a write-in episode, which
Absolutely,
would be really cool.
we wouldn't leave them hanging. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're still listening, thank you very much. This was episode 108 of the Pregame Network podcast. I am your host, Dan, joined again by my bestest pal, Anthony, and we will see everybody next week for whatever news might be coming our way this coming
Indeed.
week. So, yeah, that's it. Bye. Get out.
Bye bye. Get out.
Bye.